Now this episode kicks off with the gang chilling at the carnival when this stalker Helga sees this man Arnold chilling by himself enjoying the view. This is when my guys Gerald and Sid walk up and Helga gets pissed, saying she can never have any alone time with Arnold. Yeah, I think you've had plenty of alone time, Helga. Phoebe walks up and Helga says, look, it's the Geek Patrol, dreading for worms. Helga, you might have gotten some play if you would just shave that goddamn mark of Buddha off your face.
What the hell is that?
It's the mark of Buddha.
It's the skid mark of Buddha?
Now Gerald had asked Arnold what he was looking at, and Arnold said he was looking at Elk Island. Gerald was like, so? Arnold says, well, how come nobody ever goes there? He says, well, for one, it's haunted. And when everyone hears the word haunted, they all gather around Gerald. I see I'm not the only one that loves a good scary mystery. Now everyone was questioning Gerald because nobody believed what he was saying. Now this is when the episode gets really freaking disturbing. Gerald tells everyone the story of in the time of prohibition, on the island they called Elk, lived a gangster that was so ruthless, so disturbing, that his name inspired fear all throughout Spookumchuck River. They called him Now this gets even more disturbing because Wheezin' Ed had got his name from the wheezing sound he would make right before he would come up behind you and strangle you to death. Some say he wheezed because he struggled from chronic head colds. Others say the sounds come from a chicken bone lodged in his neck. And some say he was just faking it. But one thing's for sure, he buried his treasure in the deep depths of those caves, and no one has ever found it. Though countless souls have attempted this deadly mission, they would all succumb to horrible deaths. Deaths that were very strange, because apparently they had all come face to face with something very horrible. Now Gerald says to find such treasure, one would have to descend far into the caves of Wheezin' Ed. Now after Gerald tells this story, Helga says it was a load of crap and that the island wasn't haunted, and there's no Wheezin' Ed. This is when this old fisherman pulls up saying, "Arr." Wait, hold on my guy. "Arr, are you a fisherman or a pirate?" But this old man says, "But there be a treasure." Gerald says this man must be one of those grizzled old sea life characters. Bruh, he low-key flamed this man, but Arnold says, nah, that's only Sheena's Uncle Earl. Sid says, now what were you saying about the treasure? This is when he says, here be a small sample of his gold. I found it in his cave last Tuesday. Gerald says, looks real to me. Now all the kids had got excited about this and had wanted to go visit the island to retrieve the rest of the treasure. Yeah, I don't trust this old man. If that's the case, why didn't you go searching for the rest of the treasure, my guy? Don't be trying to send my guys out in the field to do your dirty work, knowing this man Wheezin' Ed is roaming about, allegedly. Now Helga says, you guys are morons. How do you even plan to get there? This old man then says he'll take them there for the price of $1 each, but he charges this man Harold $1 extra because my guy was obviously in shape. Bruh, he also says he'll let them rent his shovel for an extra 50 cents. Man, hold on. If you do the math correctly, my guy just finessed $8.50 out of them. They just bought this man a whole combo meal. Now while the guys are heading to the island, we see these other guys pull up as well. Now these two idiots were running a fake penny scam, and they had put all their fake pennies in this cave on this island because they said no one ever came here. You know, because of the Wheezin' Ed situation. Now the gang had finally arrived, and this guy tells them he'll be back to pick them up before the sun sets. Now Rhonda had already found what she thought was a doubloon, but you guys and me both already know that's one of those fake pennies. Now this is when Arnold sees this cave, and he says, well, if there's any treasure, I'm willing to bet it's in here. Now everyone had seen, and they are faced with two different paths. Now everyone starts discussing which way they believe they should go, and Helga tells everyone to shut up. She says, if we're gonna do this, let's at least be organized. We'll split into parties of two. Now guess what Helga weird stalker ass does? She puts Sid with Rhonda, which he was complaining about, saying, why can't I just go with Harold? This man Harold was like,
cause I gotta guard outside, that's why, on account of I'm bravest.
Yeah, more like the biggest chump. She then assigns Phoebe with Gerald, and just look at these two lovebirds. They obviously have a crush on each other, so that situation played in their favor. Now Helga's weird ass says, well, I guess since Harold is guarding the front, I'm stuck with you, football head. Yeah, you obviously did this stalker shit on purpose, because you could have easily sent Arnold and Gerald out together. But no, you want to live in this fantasy world and have a long time with my guy Arnold. But yeah, my guy Arnold starts to head out, and he lays down jelly beans so they can remember how to exit the cave. And just listen to this weirdo.
So suave and so clever. Lead, and I will follow my leash.
Now Sid and Rhonda were walking, and Sid says maybe this wheezing egg guy's just dead. You know, no ghost or nothing. Rhonda says yeah, like he just died and rotted, and his bones are just laying in this cave. This is when they actually see bones, and this man Sid was terrified. It turns out this was nothing more than chicken bones from a fast food joint. Now we are taken to Gerald and Phoebe when Gerald says, man, I just feel like I'm gonna turn a corner and fall into a hole or something. She says,
I don't think so, Gerald. This appears to be a cave of the striated variety. This kind of rock permeation, with its series of smaller passages.
You know what? Let me stop you there, Phoebe. This girl can go on for ages. Now we are taken to Harold when this man's stomach was growling because he was hungry. So what does this idiot do? He starts eating the trail of jelly beans that Arnold had laid. My guy Harold wasn't following the 5-second rule, more like the 20-minute rule. This man was just downright disgusting eating jelly beans off the ground, saying, wait, was it something I was supposed to remember about these jelly beans? I don't know. Maybe I should eat a few more and I'll remember. Yeah, because that's usually how it works. Now things weren't going too well for Helga and Arnold, because when they bumped into each other, she says,
I'm having the worst day of my life, stuck in some smelly cave with a football head.
Yeah, Helga, you literally put yourself in this scenario, and stop calling my bro football head all the time before we slide on you. But anyways, Arnold says, you know what? How about I go this way and you go that way. See ya. Now this is when Helga goes into one of those chatty poetry modes, saying this was her chance to finally confess her love to Arnold. So she catches up to him, and she was trying to get her words out. Arnold says, wait, do you hear something? And this is when the most random thing happens. They turn around and we see Brainy's weird ass just standing there, doing that thing he always does. Like, what the f was this man doing in this cave? Now Helga screams to the top of her lungs and hops in Arnold's arms. Man, now we already know she wanted to do that anyways. But yeah, the rest of the gang hear Helga screaming, so they all head over to investigate. And I just love how everyone is just acting like they can't see who it is. He's literally right there. He has to take a few steps forward for them to recognize him. Now they asked this man what he was doing in the cave, and he just says this.
Something?
Yeah, Helga, after you're done punching this man, let me take a crack at it. Now Arnold says, well guys, we should probably head out. If there wasn't a wheezing Ed, then there's definitely no treasure. But this is when Arnold falls into a hole, and after he falls in, Gerald accidentally falls in as well. But as he's falling, Phoebe tries to catch him, and she starts falling in too, which causes a chain reaction, and everyone just ends up falling. Like, come on guys, really? Now they fall into the exact area that Vic and Maury were keeping their counterfeit pennies. Everyone gets super excited thinking they were rich now, but Gerald looks at one of the coins and says, you know what Arnold, these look a lot like pennies, only not made as good. Arnold says, you mean like counterfeit pennies? Who will be stupid enough to make counterfeit pennies? And as he's saying this, Maury and Vic catch them red-handed. Maury says, what are you punks doing? Now this man Sid is funny as and they jet it. Now as they're running away from the crooks, they hit a standstill because there were just too many exits. Arnold says, just follow the jelly beans. And this is when we see Harold's fat ass still eating all the jelly beans. I mean, this man is just useless. He jets it too, but just look at how wide this man is while he's running. Hilarious. We also see Harold trip while he's running, and at this point, the boulder Indiana Jones was running from has nothing on this man Harold. Just ridiculous, man. But yeah, at the end end of this episode, the crooks end up getting caught by the police because it turns out this guy had tried to tip a waitress with one of the coins and got arrested. So basically he was tipping with pennies. Yeah, I think that waitress was good anyways, my guy. Now as the gang is heading back, Gerald says,
"Yeah, I guess there really isn't a wheezing at."
I mean, did you guys actually want to find this man? For what? To get strangled? Yeah, I think I'll pass on that. And we also hear some creepy laughing coming from the cave at the end of this episode. So maybe there was a wheezing Ed. The world may never know. But wait, we're not done just yet. I also noticed something very weird at the end of this episode. If you pay attention to everyone on the boat, you will notice one thing. Brainy wasn't on this boat. So this man was still somewhere lurking around in the cave. And we don't even know how he got on that island. Yeah, this is just all around weird. But let me know what you guys think about this episode in the comments down below. Now this episode kicks off with Arnold, Stinky, and Sid at the movies seeing some scary movie about vampires. And as you can see, Sid is absolutely terrified. Now in this movie, they basically discuss how to point out a vampire if you were ever to cross paths with one. You guys know the usual stuff: sensitivity to sunlight, allergic to garlic, and last but not least, a thirst for blood. Now when this movie was over, Arnold and Stinky were discussing what they were going to do next, but this man Sid on the other hand was like, "No can do, guys, I have to get home." You know, before it gets dark. Arnold was like, "Bruh, it's 3:30. Are you serious right now?" Sid says, "I don't want to be outside when the night walking bloodthirsty vampire wolves come in search of human blood." This man Stinky was like, "Jesus, Sid, I never knew you were such a scary cat." And this man Stinky is too funny, bruh, because he says, "Then what are you hanging around me for? On account of I'm a vampire and I want to suck your blood." This man Sid was legit scared. Like, come on, Sid. Really, dude? Arnold and Stinky both assure Sid that vampires weren't real, but he just insists they are and hurries home. Now it was later that night at Sid's crib, and this man was up making sure there weren't any vampires in his house before he went to bed. So he gets in bed and finally falls asleep, but his nightmare had only just began, literally. In Sid's dream, he was awakened by Stinky trying to suck his blood and chasing him around some house that wasn't his, and he actually gets bit in his dream. He wakes up relieved that it wasn't real, but this dream had did more damage to Sid's mental state than you'd think. So it's the next day in class, and Arnold had asked Sid how he was doing because this man seemed stressed out. He says, "I'm fine, Arnold. I'm totally not thinking about vampires at all. Yep, I'm good." This is when Rhonda compliments Stinky on the new glasses he had got. Stinky had supposedly got these glasses to keep the sun out of his eyes because they were sensitive, and of course because they made Stinky look stylish. Yeah, but you guys already know what that movie said earlier. So at this point, Sid's starting to become very suspicious about Stinky. This next situation that occurs doesn't help at all, because when the guys were in the lunchroom, the lunch lady had asked Stinky if he wanted garlic bread, and Stinky declined, saying he never touches garlic. And you already know Sid's vampire senses were going off. We are taken to another situation where Stinky was attempting to sign up for a blood donation, but he couldn't sign up because the blood drive was for staff and faculty only. Stinky says,
"That's too bad, ma'am, on account of blood drives are among my all-time favorite school functions."
This man Sid had dropped everything and ran out terrified. It was later that day when he pulls Arnold in a closet and starts to explain to him about all the weird stuff he's been seeing with Stinky. He says, "It's crazy, Arnold. It's just like in the movie. I mean, first this guy walks in with these weird glasses, then he turns down the garlic bread at lunch. I mean, come on, Arnold. Who doesn't like garlic bread? Then he gets super upset about a blood drive. A freaking blood drive, Arnold." Arnold was like, "Whoa, slow down, Sid. What are you talking about?" He says, "I'm talking about Stinky. He's a freaking vampire."
Come on, Sid. What
lot of people wear sunglasses. It doesn't make them vampires. Neither does not liking garlic.
He says, and as far as the blood drive goes, I'm pretty sure he was just excited about the free cookies they give out. So even after explaining this to Sid, he was still convinced that Stinky was a vampire. He was determined to prove this to Arnold. So what does Sid do? He puts a plan in effect. Sid goes to the library and picks up this book called How to Prove Your Friend is a Vampire. That book is pretty goddamn specific. So Sid stays up one night reading this book, and one of the first things it says to do is see if they have a reflection. So the next day, Sid stakes out by Stinky's locker to get a good photo of him. And as we can see, when Sid takes the picture, at that very moment Stinky ducks to pick something up. So now this man Sid thinks he doesn't have a reflection. So of course he tries to present this photo to Arnold, but Arnold was like, Sid, what is this? It's literally nothing there. Sid says, that's the point. He has no reflection, Arnold. He can't see himself in the mirror either, and they can't be photographed. Arnold says, Sid, this doesn't prove anything besides the fact that you're a bad photographer. Now he was reading the next part of the book, and apparently this section had told Sid to check for unusually large teeth, fangs to be exact. So Stinky was in the cafeteria eating his lunch when this man Sid goes into secret agent mode and gets closer to Stinky to observe his teeth. Except he didn't do this. He just took the man's sandwich and called this evidence, saying, look how big this bite is, Arnold. Pretty scary, huh? And as you can see, this man Arnold was not trying to hear any of this. He tells Sid that's only a bologna sandwich and to get that the fuck out of his face. Sid was trying to say the sandwich had big fang marks, but if that's the case, I must be a vampire as well, because that's usually how my burger looks when I get a quarter pounder from McDonald's. Bruh. And by this time, Stinky had noticed the sandwich was gone.
Hey, where's my sandwich?
Bro, why is this man Stinky so hilarious to me? He's just funny as being himself, to be honest. But yeah, Sid was on the bus later that day and he was reading the next chapter. It says,
The third step in figuring out if your friend is a grisly, night-walking fiend is to catch him in the transformed state of big, hairy vampire bat.
So this man sneaks on top of Stinky's house to spy on him. Yeah, Sid, I think you're taking this a little too far, man. This is when this man looks up and a whole freaking bat head came out of nowhere. Alright, not gonna lie. Stinky, why the f do you have bats flying around your house, my guy? Yeah, that's strange. But Sid catches the bat and he was under the impression that the bat was Stinky. So the next day, he presents the bat to Arnold saying, see Arnold, look, it's Stinky in his hideous bat stage. He says, I know it's Stinky because I caught it flying right out of his room. Also, some kid earlier had told Sid they didn't see Stinky on the bus this morning. Arnold says that doesn't prove anything. He's probably just sick at home. And after saying this, he lets the bat go. And Sid was super upset about this, saying, look at what you did, Arnold. You just released a freaking monster. Now he can come get revenge on me. Now this is when this episode takes a dark turn. Listen to what Sid says next.
I'm doomed! You are not doomed, Sid. Yes, I am. And now my only chance of survival is to go to Stinky's house tonight and eliminate him before he eliminates me.
Basically, this man was planning to murder Stinky tonight. Arnold says, okay, bruh. If this is how it's going to be, I guess I have no choice but to go with you.
I don't see anything. Wait a minute, there he is. That's kind of odd.
Yeah, my guy Stinky was putting on his Dracula coat, getting in that mode. Sid says, see what I mean, Arnold? Now, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that Stinky's outfit was a little suspicious, but maybe my guy just likes to cosplay or something.
Come on. Arnold, look!
So they head in for a closer look, and what they see next is pretty fucking weird. This man Stinky was attempting to take a bite out of a whole goat. What the f? Yeah, Stinky definitely isn't a vampire, but I think we all can agree he's on some weird stuff. Arnold says,
I know what it looks like, Sid, but there's no way. The guy's in there, sucking on the neck of a goat. What more do you need?
And what happens next is even weirder. We see this man Stinky actually getting inside a coffin. Sid says, yup, that does it. That's the nail in the coffin. Arnold had even admitted that Stinky's behavior was weird, but maybe it was all just a big misunderstanding. And at this point, Sid had had enough. He says, we must take action. This is when this man pulls out a flimsy artificial sword. Like, bruh, what are you gonna do with that thing? Scratch this man's back? Sid tells Arnold to wait there and keep guard while he sneaks around the back. But instead of doing that, Arnold just knocks on the door and explains the whole situation to Stinky. Now Stinky was confused as to why Sid would think he's a vampire, but Arnold tells him, well, for one, look what you're wearing. And what about the goat? We saw you bite its neck. Also, what's up with the coffin, man? That's pretty damn weird. Sid then storms in saying,
Aha! At last, I have reached the Dark One's lair!
now before Sid could finish this man off, Stinky had an explanation for everything. So as far as the coat, that was really just his nightgown. Apparently he wore it so the collar could keep his ears warm at night. Sid says,
Yeah, right. And I'm sure you have just as clever an explanation as to why you were maliciously sucking the blood out of the neck of that poor innocent goat.
now apparently the goat wasn't real and this was just some taxidermy project. He said he wasn't sucking his blood, he was biting off a piece of thread that was stuck. Sid says, yeah, right, and I bet that coffin over there isn't real either. He says, it's not a coffin, this was just a tanning bed that his dad had converted from a coffin. Yeah, that is still weird. Who wants to tan in a goddamn coffin? Yeah, I think I'll pass, fam. Now this man Sid was still convinced, but this all changed once he saw that Stinky had a reflection.
What do you see? I see two ghoulish, horrible vampires in a mirror! How can we be vampires if we have reflections?
Sid, you got to stay off them drugs, man. Now, if you thought this episode was done being weird, then you're wrong. Because after the guys chat some more and Arnold and Sid leave, Stinky's bat returns and Stinky starts telling his pet bat about the crazy day he's had. This is when Stinky finally exposes his true form. Take a look at this. Damn, so Sid was actually right the entire time. What do you know? But tell me what you guys think about this strange episode of Hey Arnold down in the comments below. And until next time, peace. Now this episode kicks off with Arnold and Lola just randomly standing in front of the movie theater when Arnold asks Lola if she would like to go see Evil Twin 2, which Lola declines because she says she doesn't really enjoy scary movies. Arnold then follows up with another suggestion, asking her if she wanted to go see this other movie instead, The Enchanted Bunnies of Happy Forest. Lola says the movie looks sweet, but that she would rather not go see it. Arnold was a bit confused because he knew for a fact Lola liked those type of movies, when Lola tells Arnold it wasn't because of the movie. In fact, she was brutally honest and says, it's you. Now I felt so bad for Arnold in this very moment. You can literally see the pain in his eyes, because if you have watched this show, then you know Arnold has been liking Lola since forever. Lola to Arnold is basically what Trixie is to Timmy, a girl he's really interested in but can't get. Now Lola tells Arnold that she's sorry, but that she has told him time after time that she doesn't like him, and that going to the movies is something you do with someone you really like. She says she hopes he understands when Arnold says to Lola, I really just don't understand why you don't like me because we get along so well. She tells Arnold that he just isn't that oh so special person she has been looking for, apologizes and tells him she has to get home. Now after this, Helga weird ass pops up from behind the corner, revealing that she had been listening to Arnold and Lola's entire conversation. She was basically happy about the fact that Arnold got dissed. Now when I think about it, Helga was definitely a deranged lunatic and a stalker. We were children literally watching her stalk this man, bruh. But anyways, Arnold gets home when he sees Grandpa sitting on the stoop waiting on him. He asked Arnold if he had forgot about his cousin Arnie that was coming to visit him, and Granddad says while Arnold was at school he had to spend a whole day with the weirdo. If Granddad called this man weird, he's definitely weird. Arnold knocks on the bathroom door and calls Arnie's name. This is when his cousin steps out the bathroom with the blankest expression.
Hey, Arnie.
Hey,
How's it going? What have you been up to?
I've been reading the ingredients on the shampoo bottle.
Now, if you listen to the way Arnie talks and just observe him standing right next to Arnold, it's clear to me that the writers had the intentions of making him the complete opposite of Arnold. It's almost like this isn't even his cousin, but just him from a parallel universe. Now, the family are having dinner and everyone is just looking at Arnie like he's crazy because the way he eats is just terrible. He literally has no manners. Now, everyone tries to make conversation with Arnie, and Oscar's wife asks him what are some of his hobbies. This is when this man says he likes to count things.
I like to count things.
Count things. Susie, what kind of stupid answer is that?
Now, I kinda agree with Oscar, like what kind of weird answer was that? She asks him what else he's interested in when this man says gum, plain flavored gum. Like at this point, are you even trying to engage in the conversation, my guy? Oscar's wife was like, alright bruh, maybe this man is actually a bit slow, or a lot. Ernie calls him a loser, which is kinda ironic coming from him because I don't just see this man swimming in pussy out here. Mr. Wynn then says he is also hideous to look at. I mean, just going in on my guy. We are taken to the next day when we see Stinky and Arnold on the playground discussing Arnie when Stinky tells Arnold he looks just like him, only uglier. He also says he talks just like him, but only dumber. Arnold was like, man, I know, but could you at least try to be nice to him while he's here? Because I mean, he is still my cousin. We then see Arnie being weird as hell when he walks up to Rhonda and Nadine and asks them if they wanted to touch the lint he collects. Rhonda looked at Nadine and then looked at her watch like, you remember that thing we had to do earlier? Yeah, me either, but let's get the away from this guy. He passes by Helga and Phoebe and Helga says,
Oh man, what a dweeb.
just walking around looking like a less attractive version of my baby Arnold. How dare you? Stinky says, man, I'll try to get to know him, but he makes it pretty hard to like him. Now this is when things start to get weird. Lila sees Arnold's cousin and is totally in love. I mean, just look at how she's looking at my guy. Arnie seems to be into Lila as well. Now before we cut into the next scene, let's just take a quick look at the situation. Remember she had just turned down Arnold a few days earlier? She literally told my guy Arnold he just wasn't that oh so special person that she was looking for, but yet she seems to be interested in Arnie, who is just like Arnold but worse in every way. But anyways, so Arnold tells his granddad since Arnie has plans tonight, he would just go and see a movie. Now pay close attention to the movie Arnold is going to see, which is Evil Twin 2. Now Arnie was reading the back labels on his candy because we all know this man loves to read the labels on things, and Lila is just so impressed by this. She says,
Gosh, Arnie, it's just ever so impressive the way you read all those big words.
I'm talking about just impressed by the slightest thing. Arnie then says he's going to get some popcorn, and as he's walking out, Arnold is walking in. He is super surprised when he sees Lila at the movie that she claimed she wasn't interested in, but we see that was obviously a lie. He asked her what she was doing here because she had said earlier she wasn't into scary movies. He says, I thought you didn't like scary movies. She says, I don't. This is when Arnie walks up and Arnold asks Lila if he could speak to her in private. He tells Lila that he really appreciates her, but that she didn't need to hang around Arnie just because she felt sorry for him. Lila was like, Arnold, I'm afraid you have it all wrong.
I don't feel bad for Arnie, and I'm certain I don't think he's weird. As a matter of fact, I've fallen madly in love with him.
Arnold was like, whoa, hold the on. Let me get this straight. You don't like me, but you like Arnie. Arnold says, how could you possibly prefer him over me? She then says, oh, I guess he just has that special something. Bruh. Like every time he tries to get a legitimate answer out of her, he just can't. It's always her going on about how he just doesn't have that special touch. She's on that bullshit if you ask me. Also, we see some very weird activity come from Helga because apparently she had been at the movie theater also while all of this took place. Now, I don't believe for a second that it was just a coincidence that Helga was also at the movie seeing that particular movie that same day. Remember earlier it was shown that she was spying on Arnold and Lila's conversation about the movies, so she decided to bring her weird there, probably knowing Arnold was still going to see that movie regardless of if he got curved or not. Anyways, it's the next day and we see Arnold on the bus just looking sad because Lila and Arnie was just flirting in front of this man. And over the course of this day, it just seems like Arnold can't avoid these two. Everywhere he turns, he just sees a less attractive version of himself just booed up with the girl of his dreams. My guy Arnold is definitely going out sad right now. I mean, just look at the saltiness in this man's face. It looks like he wants that fade with his cousin. This is when this man Stinky walks up and was like, "Man, I just can't understand how she chose your dull cousin over you. I mean, you aren't the best looking guy, Arnold, but you damn sure look better than him." Arnold gets mad like Stinky. Okay, bruh, I get it. This man Stinky was not helping the situation at all. It's the next day on the bus when Helga comes sits beside Arnold and asks him if he was still upset about his cousin taking his girl. Arnold is just still in shock over the fact that she prefers his cousin over him. Helga tells Arnold that if he pretended to be into another girl, maybe that would make Lila like him. She says this way Lila will be jealous and will come crawling back to him. I saw right through Helga's bullshit because she only suggested this so she could fake a fake relationship with Arnold for a few days to satisfy her thirst for him. So they begin this plan and Helga tells Arnold to brush her hair when Lila walks by to get her attention, which it does, but Lila was booed up with Arnie not giving two dams. After this didn't work, Helga gets Arnold to massage her feet in the middle of the bus so Lila and Arnie would have to walk past them. So next, this gets disgusting when Helga takes her gum out of her mouth and puts it right into Arnold's. Like, this man Arnold is just down bad at this point. So next they are sitting in the lunchroom sharing a chocolate milk when Lila gives Arnie a gift, and as we can see, this man is just not interested in what she's saying at all. Arnie then tells Lila that he needs to talk to her in private, and after this he walks up to Helga and asks Arnold if he could talk to Helga alone for a few minutes. This is when he says that he broke up with Lila because he had other feelings. He tells Helga that he's actually in love with her. While he's telling her this, Arnold is sitting next to Lila trying to comfort her when she says she just doesn't understand why he did this because they got along so well. Arnold then pulls a reverse Uno card because this man says,
Well, maybe he just wasn't that oh so special someone you've been looking for.
Yeah, maybe.
Bruh, Arnold was being serious when he said this, but it was just a little funny to me that he used that same bullshit on her that she was using on him earlier. She thanks Arnold for being there for her and asks if he could do her one more favor. This is when she asks my guy Arnold to take his hand off her shoulder because she doesn't like him, she just likes him. Man, if going out sad was a person right now, it would definitely be Arnold. We then see Helga sitting there getting tortured by this man Arnie. This episode was very weird to me and I want you guys to voice your opinion about this episode in the comments down below. Now this episode kicks off with the gang at the baseball field when Helga was giving everyone orders, telling them which position they were going to play. This is when Harold starts complaining about playing catcher because he said the gear made him sweat. This is when Rhonda was like,
"How many times do I have to tell you? It's better to look good than to feel good."
This is when Helga calls him Lord Boy and tells him to shut up and stop complaining. She also tells Stinky he's playing the hot corner position. Stinky was like, "Hot corner? What the heck is that?" Phoebe then says,
"What Helga's referring to is a third base position. The hot corner is simply a slang term which attempts to elucidate the high volume of balls hit in the general direction."
Like, bruh, okay Phoebe, we get it. You're smart. She just always has to get so technical with everything. But anyways, and she tells Sid he's playing right field. Sid was like, right field? That's the worst fucking position. No fucking way. Gerald then tells Sid that he's overreacting and tells him to chill out. After this, Helga tells Lila that she's center field. When Lila was like, oh, how I just adore playing center field, Helga. I just so do. Helga was like, yeah, okay. Now that just leaves Arnold, but Arnold hadn't even made it to practice yet. Helga was like, where the fuck is football head? I told him what time to be here. This is when Arnold walks up, and he had only shown up to tell everyone that he was going away for the weekend to go visit his cousin Arnie. And we all know my guy Arnie bagged Lila when he was in town and had even broken up with her before he left. She hears his name and was like,
You're oh so interesting and likable country cousin that looks almost exactly like you, only much more attractive.
bruh, I mean, just straight disrespecting my guy Arnold in his face. This is why I had no sympathy for that thought in the first episode. Gerald was like, no offense buddy, but did you forget how weird he was? Why on earth's hell would you want to go visit him? Arnold was like, come on Gerald, he's not that bad. This is when Rhonda says, not that bad. My guy, he collects lint. And Harold says he's always counting food instead of eating it. Sid then says, and he talks about plain flavored gum. And Helga throws in,
Let's not forget that phlegmy snort.
I mean, they were just going in on my guy Arnie. He had left the worst impression on everybody. Yeah, everybody except Lila for some odd reason. She seemed to be the only one who liked him. But anyways, Arnold had to get going and tells everyone he will see them in a few days. So it's later on that night when Arnold had just finished packing his suitcase. He got in bed and dozed off. The next day arises when Arnold gets dropped off literally in the middle of nowhere. This is when we see the grass start shaking like someone was about to emerge. This is when Arnie comes from behind the tall grass. He walks up and Arnold says what's up and asked him what he had been up to lately. Arnie was like,
Waiting for you.
my god dude, that sniff is atrocious. Arnold was like, yeah, my bus was running a little late. Arnie then says, yeah, 23 minutes late. This man said he had been counting. See, he's already on that weird stuff, man. Arnold says, anyways, I brought you some peanuts from the vending machine in the bus station because I know how much you like to read the ingredients on the back. Arnie says,
Peanuts, cottonseed oil, salt. Let's go.
So they hop on his tractor and Arnie was basically giving him a tour, but of course he made this weird. While they were riding, the things Arnie was pointing out was just pretty stupid stuff. Saying things like, hey, there's my mailbox, there's my pile of dirt. He then shows Arnold his pig, whose name was Abigail, and just look at the pig. Arnie and the pig literally have the exact same sniff. So they were about to walk inside, and this is when things get super weird. A girl walks up that looks just like Lila from back home. She comes up to Arnold and says, oh, you must be his oh so interesting, likable cousin from the city that I've been hearing about. She then introduces herself as Lulu. So Lila and Lulu. Yeah, this is getting freaky. Now Arnold is so lost in the sauce that he's not even questioning why it's a girl here that looks just like Lila and even has a very similar name. What's even weirder is that she was flirting with Arnold within the first few seconds of meeting him in front of Arnie, who was supposedly her boyfriend. I guess Lulu likes to keep it in the family. Now Arnie was going to show Arnold his lint collection, but Lulu had suggested that Arnold would much rather see their town than some boring lint collection. So they all head into the city and just look at what's going on here. She's holding Arnold's hand and is just disrespecting this man Arnie, but things take a even weirder turn when she takes Arnold to the lake that her and all of her friends hang out at. Now hold the fuck on. Not only did Arnie's town have their own version of Arnold, which was Arnie, but they also had their own version of Stinky and Phoebe from back home. Arnold was really starting to get weirded out now. But wait, just take a look at this.
Gosh, Fifi, I certainly do revere your new mayo.
Mayo? What the heck's that mean, Stumpy?
Notice anything odd? Well, back in Arnold's hometown, Stinky is obviously the dumb one and Phoebe is the smart one. So it appears to me that everything in Arnie's hometown is the opposite of Arnold's hometown, which is the main reason why Lulu appears to be interested in Arnold. Yeah, Arnie's girl is clearly for the streets because she straight up asked this man Arnold if he wanted to meet her at the pond later when everyone was gone to have a private swim. Like, you just met this man's cousin and you're already pushing on him? Now it also appears to me that Arnie is starting to take notice of how much of a thought his girl really is. Now after this, Lulu and Arnie take Arnold to their local grocery store when we see this.
And look, there's Gerard and Kid, two more of our ever so colorful classmates.
Now in Arnie's town, Gerald is the one complaining and overreacting all the time, and Sid is the chill one. Arnie's weird ass then starts counting the gumballs in a machine when Lulu asks Arnold if he could get her some apple butter that was on the top shelf. Arnold agrees, and this is when we see Lulu start tickling this man. Arnold didn't really fuck with it and had told her to stop. This is when she tells him that she can't help it because she likes him. She even talks the same way as Lila. Now after this, they go to the movies, and what we see at the movies is just absolutely horrible. Harold was skinny and was much more polite and pleasant to be around, and Rhonda was the big sloppy one. Not gonna lie, it is kind of refreshing to see Rhonda like this because she walks around in this show 24/7 just thinking she's better than everyone. So yeah, now after this, Arnie says he's going to get some plain flavored gum, and after he leaves, we see Lulu trying to kiss Arnold when he rejects her. He says, for one, you're Arnie's girlfriend, and two, we're like 9 years old, you thought. She then calls this man a square, and this causes Arnold to get mad and walk off. Now if you haven't seen this episode, I just know you were waiting to see what Helga was like. This is when Arnold walks outside to get some fresh air and runs into Helga. Yeah, you heard that right, not Helga, but Helga. Now Arnold had asked her what she was doing outside, and she said she was about to go in and see a movie, but instead she stayed outside and started reciting poetry and had lost track of time. Now as we can see, Arnold absolutely has googly eyes for Helga and seems to be super interested in her. Arnie then pops up out of nowhere asking Arnold if he had gotten his fresh air. Arnold says, yeah, but then I met Helga, and before he could even finish talking, Helga forces him back in, saying they were both ready to go in. Arnold says, but what about the moon? She says, forget the moon. Now tell me what you notice about this scene. Now if you said that Helga seems to be into Arnie, then you guessed right. Yup, even in Arnie's hometown, Arnold is still going outside, and you will see just that later on. Now as we progress through the night, Lulu had been making sexual suggestions toward Arnold, and while Arnold is blowing her off trying to focus on Helga, Helga is focused on Arnie the entire time. Now it was getting late when we see Helga and Arnold talking when Arnold decides to tell Helga that he really likes her. This is when this man is crushed again because Helga tells him that the guy she's actually interested in was Arnie. Arnold was like, Arnie? Helga then says,
Arnie? Well, yeah. He's interesting and likable and attractive. I couldn't help but go all goofy for him.
Arnold hears this and his entire spirit was crushed. Not only did Arnie have Lulu, but he also had Helga crushing on him. And again, Arnold was just left in the cold. Now this is when things get weird. Arnold hears something coming from the darkness of the tall grass, and it had turned out to be Arnie's crazy ass. It was like some evil demon had taken over Arnie's soul. What the fuck is going on here?
I realized why you came here, Arnold. It's so you could steal my girl. And now you're gonna pay for it.
We then see more kids come out of the darkness with that same demonic expression, and Arnold decides to jet it. And he doesn't get far when Gerald and Kid approach him in a tractor. Arnold tries to escape the other way, but that doesn't work either. Arnold is now trapped and his fate is left up to Arnie. this is when the story gets the biggest twist. Yup, it turns out Arnold was dreaming the entire time. Arnold was terrified and had shown up to the baseball field to make sure his dream wasn't real. Helga sees this man and instantly insults him, which Arnold was happy to hear because that means things were back to normal. Phoebe then says she can't help but notice that Arnold was acting a bit eccentric, and this is when this man Stinky says,
Eccentric? What in the heck's that mean?
This man Stinky never fails to make me laugh. But anyways, let me know what you guys thought about this episode in the comments down below. The more that I look into some of these old kid shows, the more I realize how much stuff they were getting away with. Yeah, today we're going to be discussing the time Hey Arnold featured a dope fiend. Season 5, episode 3, Chocolate Boy. Now this episode opens up with Chocolate Boy sitting on the ground, finishing a chocolate bar, when we see Wolfgang and Edmund sitting on the side laughing at him. Now off the rip, we see Wolfgang clearly knows Chocolate Boy is addicted to chocolate, so he makes him do these little obnoxious things for chocolate when Edmund comes up with a plan. This is when Wolfgang tells Chocolate Boy that he has a 10-pound bag of chocolate at home and tells Chocolate Boy that it can all be his, but only if he can go a whole 2 weeks without any chocolate at all. Now Chocolate Boy shows all the exact signs of a dope fiend, and you will see exactly what I mean later on in this episode. So Chocolate Boy is thrown off by this offer, his adrenaline rises, and he's overcome with fear because he wants that 10-pound bag of chocolate so bad, but he knows chocolate for him, it was literally like air to us. He has to have it. So he agrees to the deal, and this is when Wolfgang calls Mickey over and assigns him the job of following Chocolate Boy around to make sure he doesn't eat any chocolate over the next 2 weeks. Now I don't know about y'all, but I for sure wouldn't want this shady guy following me around. The deal would have been off right there. This is when we see montages of Chocolate Boy getting tempted to eat chocolate, but Mickey will always show up and remind him he's watching. So this is when things get interesting, when Chocolate Boy stops by Arnold's house and tells him he wants to quit chocolate.
You want to stop eating chocolate?
Yeah, I really do. I need to get off chocolate. No more chocolate.
But that's what you do. Eat chocolate.
Now notice Chocolate Boy said he wants to quit chocolate, not he wants to stop eating chocolate. When you want to quit something, that's usually something drug addicts say when they want to stop doing something. But Arnold is caught off guard and was like, but you're Chocolate Boy. That's like what you do. You eat chocolate. It's literally your name. Chocolate Boy pleads again and says he knows, but he just really wants to quit chocolate for the next 2 weeks. We are then taken to Arnold talking the situation over with Gerald, when Gerald tells Arnold that he pretty much thinks it's a waste of time and that he will never be able to get Chocolate Boy to stop eating chocolate. This is when Stinky says,
You can never get Chocolate Boy off chocolate.
It'd be easier to push a 2,000-pound boulder up an icy mountain.
Bruh. But Arnold tells everyone that he will prove them all wrong and get Chocolate Boy to stop eating chocolate for good. So Arnold shows up at Chocolate Boy's house and makes him throw away all his hidden chocolate, which was a huge amount. We then see Chocolate Boy shaking in class, which we all know what that looks very similar to. I don't think I even have to say it. Correct. Also at this point, it had only been 48 hours, aka 2 days, since he had chocolate, which isn't even a long time in theory, but to a addict 2 days is probably like damn near 2 months. Arnold catches up to Chocolate Boy and asks him if he's okay when he falls asleep in the hallway. So fast forward a few days and we see Chocolate Boy sitting in front of the school literally eating ants because in his head they look similar to chocolate. What the f? At this point it had been 10 days since he last had chocolate, so he has 4 more days to go and Chocolate Boy was actually able to complete the challenge. Now yes, this was good that Chocolate Boy was able to go 2 weeks without eating any chocolate, but also we have to remember why he went 2 weeks without chocolate in the first place. So this is when we see Wolfgang walk up to Chocolate Boy and he hands him the 10-pound bag of chocolate he had promised him for winning the bet. When Arnold is completely thrown off and asks what bet because he had no idea they had made a bet. Wolfgang then says,
"Didn't he tell you? I bet him if he didn't eat any chocolate for 2 weeks, I'd give him a 10-pound bag."
Arnold is enraged and tells Chocolate Boy he's highly disappointed in him, but Chocolate Boy was smashing the chocolate, not giving a f. This is when we see that he had already finished that 10-pound bag of chocolate when Wolfgang walks up to call him pathetic and makes him do more embarrassing things for chocolate.
What? Finished already? You're pathetic.
Yeah, they were chocolate, yeah, chocolate.
I'll give you more chocolate, but first you have to do a little dance for us.
Now, looking at this scene from an adult's perspective, this is honestly super sad and depressing. I mean, just look at their cold-hearted faces as they humiliate Chocolate Boy, constantly presenting him with more chocolate, knowing he would do anything for it. This is some dark stuff, man. I think it was at this moment when Chocolate Boy knew he had to do something about his addiction before it got worse. This is when we see him go back to Arnold's house for more help, but Arnold is just like, "Nah, bruh, I just helped you out. Now get the fuck out my face." Chocolate Boy begs, and we all know Arnold has a good heart, so he agrees to help him one more time. Arnold then comes up with a plan to scare him into not eating chocolate. He shows him pictures of things that can go wrong from eating too much chocolate, but this doesn't work and it actually makes him want chocolate even more. So plan A fails, time for plan B. Arnold then tells him that he needs to sweat out all the chocolate he has eaten over the years and free from domination over his obsessive fixation, but this doesn't work either. So plan B fails, time for plan C. Arnold offers him a chocolate substitute, which was something called carrot, which was from a tree. Chocolate Boy says it's not bad and that it almost tastes like chocolate, but then we see that he's actually allergic to it. So Arnold offers him a variety of other things, but he doesn't like any of them. That is, until he tries a bowl of radishes.
These are okay. They're pretty good, but they make me think about chocolate.
Arnold then tries to distinguish where his obsession with chocolate started from, and this is when Chocolate Boy says he had a nanny who used to give him chocolate all the time. He says he loved his nanny a lot, but he came home one day to see her leaving with packed bags. He was stunned when she told him she had to go far away to a foreign land called Delaware. She told him goodbye and left him one more bag of chocolate. Chocolate Boy says after this, he just went up to his room and ate chocolate. A lot of chocolate. After hearing this, Arnold figures out that the real reason Chocolate Boy eats all of this chocolate is because he misses his nanny. He had finally figured it out.
I can't be happy.
You don't eat chocolate.
I don't eat chocolate.
You're free.
I'm free. I'm free.
So the word spreads around that Chocolate Boy was free of his bad habits, and everyone is just in total shock. Wolfgang had even offered him more chocolate like a asshole, but he turned it down. Things are looking great when Arnold notices that Chocolate Boy was eating awfully a lot of radishes when he says,
How many have you eaten today?
Only about 200 or 300.
Maybe I should hold on to those for you.
No, I need these. I gotta go, Arnold.
Looks like Chocolate Boy just has an addictive personality. But anyways guys, let me know what you think about this crazy episode of Hey Arnold down in the comments below. But yeah man, until next time, I'ma holla at y'all. Peace.